Charles Olak from United Kingdom. I'm waiting for you to connect to the screen. Yeah, it's connecting. Yes, brother.
Hey,
Welcome on
bro,
board.
I'm worried.
I'll fire, Mate. We are the reason we should really be doing it in Acholi, but we are doing it in English because it's a very critical seat, Gulu City MPs. They're gonna be in parliament and they will be using English, obviously. I'm getting a lot of feedback from your. I'm getting a lot of feedback from you. I don't know what's causing it.
Okay. I think I've got my TV on, which I've put off. Is that okay now?
Yeah. Now it's sounding okay. It's still there.
Still there? It's off.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put it right off.
Okay. Right. I'm just gonna ask you a simple question.
Go ahead. Feel free.
Do you think members of parliament are overstepping, their job due to voters' expectations, and they are making local councils ineffective?
Your question has not been very clear because I think your network sort of broke before you finished.
You're on a speaker. You're on a speaker. That's why you can't hear me very well. Are you on a speaker? By any chance?
I'm not on a speaker.
Okay. Let me try and repeat the question.
Yes.
Are members of parliament overstepping their job due to voters' expectations and making local councils ineffective?
Right. Your question is very clear. I've heard it all. So is this in the context of your question? Is it northern Uganda or the entire country?
Northern Uganda, per se.
Right. So with the background of northern Uganda, we know where the region has come from. Obviously, we have had a lot of problems, political upheaval, where most of our people were in the displaced camps. And we know that there was insurgency which prevailed in the region for a very long time. And we need to keep that context in mind when we are talking about this question. Okay? So the question therefore is, what is the role of a member of parliament? Yeah, so we need to examine that. Now, I'm in the UK, and I see what members of parliament do, because, for instance, if you have an issue which you want to raise, or you want your member of parliament to raise, so the way it works is the members of parliament have what they call local surgeries. It's not where they operate someone from, but it's where they come and they meet their constituents from. So they will have a regular session where they can meet their constituents. And of course, these constituents put their issue to the member of parliament. And don't be surprised when you speak to your member of parliament, because he needs your vote in the coming election. Your issue that you have raised with him or her will be raised on the floor of parliament, and your name might also be mentioned. So that is one of the functions that, the member of parliament has. In other words, something which the constituent wants raised or articulated on the national forum is what the member of parliament is supposed to do on the constituent's behalf.
So that's the advocacy role of the member of parliament. You're hitting on.
That's correct. So on that basis, you could then say one of the roles of a member of parliament is to carry out advocacy. In other words, the sentiments that is expressed by the constituent. Now let's look at northern Uganda. What would you say is the most important issue that a constituent would have in general? So, in my opinion, I would say one of the biggest issues that we are facing in every corner, say, of Acholi, you will find that there is wrangles about land. Now, I'll ask you a question. How many times have you heard a member of parliament raise this issue on the floor of parliament? For me,
I really, other than Otoa Donga and a call going into a Moro and demonstrating, I really haven't seen it being raised sort of professionally. But I think the issue of the land in Acholi is quite complex, and for me it sort of highlights the disconnect between a Western legislation system versus African culture, because land tenure in Acholi is quite very peculiar and very different. But now you have the movement coming up with almost 3-4 different types of land tenure. And the only one that seems to function now, which by the way has created a lot of problems as well, is the customary land tenure, sort of to speak. Now, when you're coming from a background of war and the IDP comes, then you begin to realize probably the rightful owners of this land, who were young at the time, who lost their parents, have now been robbed. And that's why I think these issues of the land here is not something that will be resolved overnight unless we have a credible traditional leadership structure that is willing to come forth and help to address them. But I'm not seeing that forthcoming with the traditional leadership structure we have right now. Yes, the member of parliaments can play a role, but in a sense, their role is quite minimal. Their role is quite minimal. So I will leave that to you to comment. But I think for me, the root cause there is quite complex.
So you have touched on a number of issues there. Now, in my opinion, so we were talking about what the member of parliament is supposed to do, yeah, and whether or not they have actually overstepped the mark. Now, in my opinion, that should have been one of the, because in the north, in Acholi sub-region, we have got a grouping of all our members of parliament, which is called the Acholi Parliamentary Group, right? So all our members of parliament could have actually chosen to tackle the issue of land under the auspices of the Acholi Parliamentary Group, which, in my opinion, they haven't done. I would not say the tenure system is a problem, because government actually customary land tenure system to exist. That in itself shows that they have recognized that this land cannot be registered as a leasehold. It cannot even be registered as a freehold. It can only be fitting to register this land as customary land, which is actually, if you think of it, because customary land, I don't think exists in Buganda. In Buganda, you have the leasehold system, the freehold, and the Milo land, which the Milo land is actually equivalent to the freehold system. So I don't think they have the customary land system. Now, the customary land system, which is available in the north, would have enabled our MPs to work together to make sure that our land is actually secured through that customary registration system. Yeah. So that is one thing which I would have expected our members of parliament to grab as one of their key manifesto issues to talk about. Now, I know you spoke briefly about our brother, Mr. Ojara Martin Mapenduzi, who is the current LC5 chairperson. And of course, he has now expressed his interest to contest for the member of parliament seat for Laibi and Badege, which is it Gulu West, which most people refer to as Gulu West. Now, I sat the other day and I listened to his speech when he was declaring his candidature for that position. And to be honest, unless somebody is totally biased against him, I would say this is the proper candidate for this seat. Yeah. Based on what he has actually presented, and also based on his track record as the LC5 chairperson for Gulu district. Because he mentioned a number of things ranging from when the Kony insurgency was still there, and he was also party to the delegation that attempted to go and speak to Joseph Kony to make sure that they stopped the insurgency. So from that point until now, he has been on the scene, and he has got a number of achievements that he can point to. So, in my opinion, this young man, because I'm older than him, should supported, because we can see that he's going to use the exact tactic that he has used to make Gulu District Council succeed on not just the national stage, which is the entire Uganda, but how many cities internationally has partnered with Gulu? So many. So the way I look at Ojara Mapenduzi is that this is someone who doesn't make a lot of noise, right? You don't hear him getting mixed with controversy. I'm not saying controversy is bad. In fact, certain activities needs to be tackled through controversy. So, in other words, there are some members of parliament who, for instance, my brother Odongauto and Gilbert, their style of politics, I also agree with in some respects. But what I'm suggesting is Ojara Mapenduzi is different in the way that he does his politics. He's more of someone who works behind the scene, connecting his constituency with the outside world. And in so doing, he manages to bring in a lot of different focus and investment, if you like, into the place. So I can see that when he is elected, when he's elected the MP for Gulu West, and of course by this time we know that Gulu City is now in existence. I can only see that the benefit will flow, and actually he is likely to pull the other members of parliament to perform better, because they will see how successful he is vis-a-vis the other members of parliament are doing. And you know how people sometimes they're best when they see that somebody is performing so well, and then they would want to model their own activities alongside that person. So I would say, of course, people will have to make up their own minds what they think about individual candidates. But I think Ojara has managed to raise the bar quite high. And anyone who is now going to come to contest with him will have to at least try and put forward what they're likely to do for the people of Laibi and Badege. Because if you do not manage to come close to what he has done, then people are going to say, you see, there's a big difference here between what Ojara has done and what you are doing. And I think you have convinced us enough that you will be a good, member of parliament. And that's the way that we should be looking at prospective leaders. The other point I wanted to make also because there's quite a few people who have been saying, "Oh, I wish Ojara had actually left the LC5 position and become the Gulumea instead of going to become the MP." Now, you see, we have to be realistic here. Everybody has got a vision for what they think they can do. Now, unless you have discussed with them and then they've rejected your position, you really cannot criticize them for not going the route that you actually thought he was going to go. Even me, I was actually expecting that he was going to declare as a candidate for the People Power pressure. So for me, he actually surprised me, and he did better than what I had actually expected. Not that I support People Power, but I for someone like Ojara, who is a well-accomplished leader in his own right, he did not actually need anybody, not even FDC, not even People Power, not anyone, for him to get some kind of recognition from, in order for him to to put himself forward to be elected as the member of parliament.
I think you make a very valid point. But then there's now the Mao factor, which he has to deal with. The young man came through the ranks of Uganda Young Democrats, as you will be aware. In a sense, fathered Uganda Young Democrats, and he did exceptionally well. And together with people like Alfred Okorochen, I remember when the insurgency was trending, they were very active in university politics. Now, do you think Mao will take this as an act of betrayal? Because now it's two of his mentees going against, actually three, if you factor in Tony Kitao. And I don't think the chairman is gonna take to it very kindly. What do you have to say about that?
So now this is extremely interesting, because as you have mentioned, actually, are you talking about Mr. Okidi, or you are talking about Leandro Komakech?
I'm talking about Leandro Komakech, the incumbent.
Okay. So now, Leandro is a very popular member of parliament currently, right? And my advice to Mapenduzi is that you should not take him lightly. Now, the only way that you should carry yourself is to present what you have managed to achieve so far, yeah, and leave the rest to the electors. But I still believe that Ojara has got a slight edge, and I'll tell you why. Now, the first point that I want to say is that Mao has been away from Gulu for a little bit in terms of being on the ground. Yeah. So at one stage, when the late Ochoa was around, Mao was extremely popular, and I don't think anybody could stand against Mao and defeat Mao at that stage. But of course, as he has now taken on board the leadership of DP at national stage, his participation in local politics in Gulu has slightly reduced. But that's not to say it has gone away, because as you say, the people he has mentored have now actually come up. And so what we are looking at is a young member of parliament in Leandro Komakech. Now, our question will be, what has the performance of Leandro been in this in the current parliament? Now, I know he has come up with a few legislative proposals. I don't know whether those have translated themselves into concrete laws that are likely to benefit us as a Choli, because that's what we are talking about. So much as he has been active, I cannot see anything that he would put forward as something that he has actually done in the current parliament. Given those two factors, it will boil down to one thing, which is he has to go on the ground, face the voters, and basically tussle it out with Mapenduzi. And this is where I see Mapenduzi actually performing slightly better, because he will point at things like Peje Stadium, and everybody knows the story about Peje Stadium. Everybody knows the story about the sockets.
But that was his job, though. That was his job as a LT5 chairman. He was just doing his job.
He was. But that's why I'm saying he's going to point the things that he has achieved. And also, Leandro Komakech, as the MP, has got to now point to the things that he has managed to achieve and inform the citizens accordingly. Yeah, because if you do not have anything that you're going to show that you have managed to achieve in the current parliament, then what is there for you to convince me that if I sent you back next parliament, you are again going to perform better than this time round? And also the other thing is, voters don't like organizations that are a little bit disorganized, or at least appearing to be disorganized. And we know the factionalism that is happening within DP. Yeah, it's not so much evident in the north, but for those who follow politics, and I think most people are fairly fairly open-eyed these days, they will see that this is a party which is fairly disorganized, even though we have our own son who is at the head of it. So that factor also is going to impact negatively, in my opinion, on Komakech. So I think, if you draw the balance sheet, I think on a slight probability, I still see that Mapenduzi has got the edge. Now let's look at this factor. I mean, you could almost say that he has got unfair advantage because he's operating right in the face of the voters in Gulu. That's where his domain is. Whereas the other guys, they have to go to Kampala and then they come back, and sometimes they come back empty-handed, so they have nothing much to show. So that's why I'm saying, and also this COVID issue now, which has come up, you'll see that Mapenduzi is very active. He has been issuing statements. He has been going to talk shows. So 1 + 1 = 2. So most people will look at him as being someone who you can actually, like a safe pair of hands to entrust your vote on. Yeah, that's how I would look at it for now. But of course, the proof of the pudding, as they say, is in the eating. Until the voting takes place and the votes are counted, we can be sure who is going to win. And all I can say is that the bar has been set very high. I haven't heard any manifesto presentation from the party side of things. As to what they're going to
certainly present one.
I'm sure they're going to. That is why our ears have got to be on the ground, and we don't need to be biased. We need to judge these people on the merits of actually saying they can do, and we have to be serious and tackle them as well. I mean, for me anyway, my issue is about land. Anybody who presents a manifesto which doesn't have any issue about land in it, for me, it means they have not really understood what our problem is as actually, because we have these vultures, you know, eyeing the land.
This is true.
A lot of problems that we have internally with our own relations, leave alone that one. But externally, we face a lot of problems. In fact, our people, if you look at Gulu side where Amoro is, there's all these kinds of problems which hasn't been addressed, you know. And again, we have now problems in Lamour where there's this new Atiak sugar factory with the outgrowers in Lamour. All those are problems that, you know, our MPs should be looking for solutions for. So there's quite a number of problems which is only likely to increase, and we want to. Your original question was, has the participation of the MPs actually made the district leaders irrelevant? I think what the issue is that people have actually been forced to find a niche for themselves. The leaders have had to look for ways of addressing current problems. Because an MP would not really be someone standing on the picket line to demonstrate about an issue. You'll find that our MPs are now
exactly my point. Exactly. And it, like you said before, it boils back to what is really the role of a member of parliament. But if we can move on from that now, very quickly, how can voters ensure they get the most out of their MPs?
Right. So one of the things that I think we as actually need to do is to ensure that when somebody is now, so our MPs need to have an office in their constituency. Okay. Now I know we have all kinds of problems now with the COVID-19. People are coming to MPs when they have no food to eat. Now that's a bit unfair to the MP because they will not solve everybody's problems. Yeah. So how the voters can ensure that an MP delivers what they want is, first of all, to speak with one voice to the MP. If our issue is about land, let us, when we meet the MPs, tell them that this is what we want you to address, right? Actually, let us start when they are campaigning, like now. We want them to include the issue about land in their manifesto. Yeah, we shouldn't wait until they become an MP and then we start telling them about this land. So that's number one. Secondly, we have to have a mechanism of measuring what the performance of these MPs are. It's not just about going to Parliament and speaking. We want them to be.
I wanted to come to that as well because Leandro has been voted as one of the best performing members of Parliament. But then the facts on the ground are very different for him.
Exactly.
So I wanted to come to that. How do we assess a member of Parliament's performance? But now that you hinted on it, I'll just let you carry on.
Yeah. So for me, it's not difficult to operate on, say, a 10-point program, whereby we'll say, what are the 10 points that you, when we send you to Parliament, you are going to work on? Okay. So the MP should summarize their manifesto into 10 points. Right? Next time they come back to the constituency, we'll say, out of these 10 points, which you have spoken about at rallies, you have gone to the radio station, you have met me on a one-to-one basis, I've repeated the same thing to you. Out of the 10 points, what is your progress on every single one of them? So to me, if we do that, we are now holding our MPs accountable. Now, what we don't have in the Uganda system is that non-performing MPs, or even MPs who contravene our interest, we don't have a way of recalling them. Recalling means you actually get the MP back, and a by-election is forced if there's enough constituents who have signed a petition, and then a by-election gets forced, and then the voting takes place, and that MP actually is voted out, or they may be voted back if people still like them. We don't have that system in Uganda. So what we are left with is to basically be very vigilant and make sure that if the MPs summarize the interest into a 10-point program, we assess their performance on that basis, and not get ourselves in a situation where people of, say, Kitgum municipality, they wanted their MP to vote against lifting the term limits. The MP goes to parliament and votes the opposite way. And what happens next? The MP is promoted to become a minister. Now,
Are we talking? Are we talking about what's her name, Megokot?
no, not that one. I think she's called Mama Mabira. You know the one.
That would be a nickname, though. I see Derek. He probably wants to come on. He's quite big on local politics.
Okay.
Derek, if you want to come on, I will invite you now, and then I'll see if I can add you.
Do you want me to still stay on, or?
You stay on, but I'm about to bring back Harry because I want to hear what Harry has to say about the land issue. And I also want to hear what Derek has to say about the land issue. But very, finally for you then, finally for you then, legislation and leadership, is there a difference?
Legislation and leadership. Can you elaborate? I mean, leadership is when you have influence over people, when you can articulate the interest that people have, and present it and package it in a way that they will feel that actually it is as if I'm the one who said it. So they will leave it for their leader because they have so much trust in their leader, and their leader has actually echoed exactly what their sentiments were. So to me, that is leadership. Legislation, on the other side, is a procedural matter, because you can be an MP bringing a private member's bill in Parliament, and then that bill has to go through the steps that bills have to go through, and then they are provided they are voted on and they've gone to the right committees, then they end up to be what? To be legislation, which then binds everybody in the country. So anybody, not necessarily a leader, can actually bring up legislation in Parliament, and then it ends up binding everybody. In terms of leadership, I think you have to have someone who has got influence. Now, for you to have influence, you need to understand your people. Yeah, you need to empathize with your people. So a leader, if you are a leader, you have to have a listening ear, and you have to be someone who is able to take criticism. Yeah, some people will actually just be wanting to wind you up. As a leader, you are still leading that person as well. So you have to regard whether people who like you or people who don't like you, they are all your people. Yeah, and actually,
okay. Very briefly, the reason I asked that question is comparatively. Leandro is a seasoned legislator. Do you think Mapenduzi will make a good legislator as well? He went to Parliament, because right now it seems he's more of a leader based on what you're saying. Now, do you think he's capable of legislation as well?
That's a very good point, actually. Now, what I said to start with was that a leader is someone who has got influence, right? For you to have influence, it means people have to see things from your perspective. Yeah. When I'm talking to you and I'm explaining to you about our land, Then once we have finished the discussion and you have gone away, yeah, that discussion, I felt we actually tackled the right issue there. So, as a leader, I would have actually done my job if I made you see the point that I was trying to to present. As a leader, Mapinduzi, if he doesn't change, I think he will make an excellent legislator, and I'll tell you the reason why. The reason is this: he's very articulate in putting across his views. As we heard the other day when he made his speech. His speech was, I don't think he put any foot wrong. And he left no one in doubt as to what his intention was and what his achievements were. And when you go to Parliament and people will listen to what you have to say, and you will convince people by the way you present your facts. Right? So and also you have to have a knack of persuasion. So when he gets to Parliament, he will get a few people on his side, and who knows, maybe other parts of the country may be facing the same issues that he's trying to legislate on. So naturally, he is going to have allies, and proceeding in that way, I could see him really excelling very well. The only problem, because he's done so well at the domestic local level, it will be sort of a loss to the district. But then, of course, we are now. And our loss in terms of the district is actually our gain if you look at it from another point of view. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Charles from London. Let me try and bring back Ari. And just to clarify, there is a system of recalling. Members have commented, Sunday Ojai, solicitor, lawyer in the group, I think from Akechi as well, and they say there is a system of recalling. Derek makes that same point as well.
So we haven't really found it necessary to use that provision. I would have thought if people were aware that that system exists, there's many instances when some of these MPs that we have currently, we would have to invoke that very procedure, unless for one reason or another the constituents found it necessary not to go down that route. But I'm happy that that system exists, and it would be nice if the MPs that we elect know that we could easily go down that route if we are not happy with their performance.
Yeah, exactly. In itself, it's a way of holding them accountable, I would say. But I think there is a lack of voter awareness that they have this power as well. And similarly, this is why I raised this discussion today, the lack of awareness on what exactly the role of a member of parliament is. So I think both issues tie together. And let me say thank you very much for your contribution. Let me try and bring
you should have
Derek and Harry on.
It is very, 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 very welcome from my point of view. I think I've also gained a lot by participating in it. You have yourself a good evening, and very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my brother.